they obviously are. They're not going to use him as a jobber. They're not using him. I mean, if you had you wouldn't put a guy, just bring him up to have him face, like let's see my boy Perfect 10 on SmackDown, Ty Dillinger. He's facing Kurt Hawkins. Like, okay, great. He's facing Dean Ambrose and Finn Balor. That is, to me, if that's not a good sign from the management that, okay, this guy is legit, I don't know what is.
No, I think they're definitely they're treating him legitimately. So I'm just saying I would like to see him, like I said, a little bit differently, but I'm starting to get a little more on the Elias Sampson train than I have been in the past. I'll say that much.
Where do you stand? I know we're kind of bouncing around on Raw. Where do you stand on this whole Enzo and Cass thing? I mean, I don't know my feelings. I'm still trying to process my thoughts on the Big Show getting involved. The only thing I can come up with the Big Show getting involved with Enzo and Cass is they're just making Cass look like a badass. That's really what it comes down to. I mean, Enzo is really not going to win against Cass unless he does something, he cheats or does something like that. But I think the only thing that came out of that is they show Cass is a badass, and now he's like he's the next, great thing in WWE. That's the only thing I can come up with. I mean, did you see it differently than that?
I think that's how they're trying to treat Cass. I don't think that's how they're going to end up treating Cass. I think he's going to be not a jobber, but I think he's going to be one of those odd men out. I think he's going to be treated like a Big Show. I think he's going to be that guy that's, in the I've said this 1,000 times. He's going to be that guy that's in the Elimination Chamber that's not going to be somebody that you're actually going to pick to win. There's going to be a 6-man Elimination Chamber match, and the Big Show's in there, or Kane's in. How many times has Kane been in the Royal Rumble? How many times is Kane the odds-on favorite to win the Royal Rumble? How many times has Kane won the Royal Rumble? 0. How many times, though, when Kane is in a match, a 6-man ladder match, you're like, who can beat Kane? Who's going to stop Kane? And Kane never wins.
And the only thing with Kane is before Roman Reigns, I mean, he had the most eliminations in the single Rumble.
So I feel that's what they're going to do with Big Cass. He's going to be that guy that's going to be like, well, who's going to stop Big? He's going to win this ladder, and he's never going to win it. He's going to be in that 6-man ladder match, and he's never going to win. He's going to be in that Elimination Chamber, and he's going to be like the first guy eliminated.
So let me
he's going to be in the Royal Rumble and break the elimination record, but he'll never win.
Do you see him? I know it's hard to compare males to females, especially in sports entertainment, but do you kind of see him as like a Nia Jax in the women's division? Like compare, Nia Jax in the women's division, Big Cass in the men. Like he's like Nia Jax. I don't think is going to be.
Yeah, that's
big
a good comparison.
I mean, I know it's completely opposites, females and males, but I think that's where they're kind of.
That's a comparison where they treat him like they're unbeatable, but at the same time, kind of what they were doing with Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt was coming out and saying, like he's this great thing, but then everybody was beating him. He was actually never winning any matches. His
winning percentage was like what, like 10%? It was something really ridiculous. Like he wasn't winning any matches. And I think the way they're doing things with Bray Wyatt, it boggles my mind sometimes. Like I'm like, okay, they're finally giving, like when Bray Wyatt wins the championship, I'm like, okay, they're finally giving him the keys to the kingdom, so to speak. And then it's like, all right, well, there he goes, losing the match. It's like, and then he wins the match. Then Bray Wyatt is one of the most confusing characters to project on sports entertainment. I don't know. Some weeks I'm down on him. Some weeks I'm high on him. I'm always a fan, but some weeks I'm like, what the hell are they doing with this guy? And I know they cut the promo with him and Finn Balor, which I think that'll be a good match. I do see Finn winning that match though.
Yeah, I'm not off the Bray Wyatt. I just get to a point where Bray Wyatt is. I'm just not really that interested in him at the moment. I'm not saying I'll never be interested in him again.
Yeah.
I'm just not super interested in Bray Wyatt at the moment. I like watching his matches. I guess I'm just not interested in his promos. His promos are dying quick on my eyes. It's because it's the same thing. It's, again, he has these things where, he says these poetic words to his opponent, and then, they're not giving him a title shot. He's not being deeply involved in main events, like with what's going on with Roman Reigns and all them. So I just feel that until that happens, this whole fireflies and creepiness, I'm going to have to, take a break from, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that. I'm kind of, the nice thing about having DVR is a lot of times I can fast forward through a lot of that mumbo jumbo, so to speak. I don't know, Bray Wyatt, I'm always a fan. I'm always, if he wins, I'm super pumped. But at the same time, his promos, like you're spot on. The promos, I feel like are just kind of, they're making me snooze a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of the
fine
same stuff.
They're just the same stuff over and over again, and he's just picking new opponents. Then that's the thing too. He's just picking new opponents. It's not like there's like more rhyme and reason a lot of times behind who he wants to face. It just seems like he's just like, nah, I guess I haven't faced Finn Balor yet, so I'll say Finn Balor's evil and like he's the root of all the world's problems.
He's not a real demon, or
like that type of thing. And it just seems like he's just got to face guy after guy after guy. It doesn't seem like he's going after anybody with real intent or real purpose. And speaking of no purpose, I've been kind of wanting to get to this for a little bit. This is an ideal to me why Monday Night Raw is too long. Obviously, that's the beating a horse, a dead horse. Monday Night Raw is too long. We all know that. But watching Raw, because I watched it from start to finish live this past Monday night, was the fact that the Cruiserweights have their own TV show. They have their own television show, 205 Live, and they're really just a supplement to Monday Night Raw. But this is how you can tell that you have too much time on your hands. So the deal that's going on right now with Titus O'Neil and his client, Akira Tozawa, they had a promo, like a backstage locker room thing going on way before the match. Then they had a match where he took on Daivari. And then they had like a post-match in the locker room segment. And I'm just sitting here thinking, this is the third segment, if you count the match as a segment, this is the third segment with Akira Tozawa and Titus O'Neil. Like that.
What do you need? Why do you need 3 segments for him?
You don't. That's the problem. Raw is way too long, and that shows why Raw is way too long, because and even with Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose, even the fact that like 2 hours later they kind of caught back up with them. Back in the day, the Monday Night Raw would have started with Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose and that whole segment that you saw. And then that would have been it. And then they would have been done for the night. They would have gotten their cars after their segment. And the next part of that segment would be next week on Raw.
Yeah.
They wouldn't like the problem is with an episodic show and with a show that's kind of like a soap opera where everything's constantly going, they're getting to a point where they're starting to not completely resolve, but resolve issues within the same show. Before, Monday Night Raw was always to be continued. Now it's like something happens at 9 o'clock, and then by like 10:30, it's resolved. And you're like, no, I want it to happen, and then I want to tune in next week to see what happens with that.
You want to drag it out.
It's not just
to a point. To a point,
you want to drag it out, yes. And I just feel that like they're just giving way too much time. Like it's to a point before it would be like, who's Kurt Angle's son? We'll find out next week on Raw. Now it's like to a point where some of these storylines would be like, who attacked such and such backstage? And by 9:45, we got another clue. And then by 10:30, we find out. And then by 11 o'clock, it's resolved and they're together. Like it's complete storylines in one night. Like I say, I don't like that. I like when Raw starts out with who attacked me backstage. And then next week we, get a clue. And then the following week we get a clue. Not who attacked me backstage, found out who it is. I hate them. I like them, and then Raw goes off the air, and the entire storyline came full circle in just one episode of Raw, and you have Raw every single week, and you have a pay-per-view once a month that's just Raw and SmackDown specific. So it's these storylines, I just feel they don't get as much depth because, like you say, you're revisiting characters. Like after we saw Seth Rollins, like an hour later, we're seeing Seth Rollins again, and we're seeing Dean Ambrose again, but worse than that is we're seeing Akira Tozawa for a third time on Raw, and it's like, you have your own show.
Go on 205 and do your thing on there. That's my thing.
Yeah.
Get them on there.
If you're a supplement, the idea is that you're a supplement. I don't want to see you 3 times on a show that's not even your show.
I don't see the point of that, to be honest with you.
I didn't really even see the point of that post interview after Monday Night Raw was over. After 3 hours and 15 minutes of Raw, they had the WWE Network exclusive with Kurt Angle and Jason Jordan. The post interview, the whole thing. Save that to air next week on Raw.
That's the tough thing though. Nowadays with the WWE Network, they gotta keep the content fresh. They gotta keep things rolling. That's why they don't do like you said with the Kurt Angle Jordan, Jason Jordan thing, where stay tuned for next week. We're gonna have the exclusive interview on how things kind of unfolded and this and that. They can't. They're not doing it as much anymore because they got to keep certain things fresh on the network. They got to keep the subscriptions up. They got to get the numbers up. Which I know we'll talk about a particular show that's on the network later on. But the goal is they want to get more eyeballs on the network, not just for pay-per-views, which is what most people. I watch NXT, but most people, most fans that I know that they're not diehards like we are. Like they watch it, they know what's going on. They watch the pay-per-views. That's the only reason why they're like, okay, it's better than just paying $70 for a pay-per-view. I'll pay $9.99. That's cool. You know what I mean?
So are you moving now to the main event, essentially, of Raw? Are you okay with a fatal four-way match at SummerSlam with all these guys in the ring? We haven't seen Brock Lesnar really ever. I won't even say going back to maybe his original stint. We saw him maybe in a few tag team matches, but we haven't really seen him in triple threats or fatal four-ways. He was never in these multi-person ladder matches back in the day. So are you okay with seeing Brock Lesnar in this element?
I'm okay with it. I mean, the reason why I'm okay with it is because I don't want to see another Brock Lesnar Goldberg where it's a 5-minute match. You know what I mean? With a fatal four-way, you can make it so, okay, WWE can then say, oh, yes, we had Brock Lesnar in for a 15, 20-minute match when maybe he only did 3 minutes worth of stuff, where you can have something happen where, maybe they all attack Brock and he gets laid out for 5 minutes and then comes in, does an F5 to Roman Reigns or something, and they keep the match rolling. I think that might be WWE's way of, okay, we're going to present Brock Lesnar. Oh, he was actually in a match for 20 minutes when we all know as wrestling fans, okay, he's outside laying on the ground for 3/4 of that match anyways. You know what I mean? So I do see the purpose behind it. So you can showcase, Braun Strowman, you can showcase Samoa Joe and Roman Reigns. I think that's a good way of doing it. I think it's going to be a good match. The thing I want to see most is I want to see the Braun Strowman Brock Lesnar encounter. I want to see that. I think that's going to be solid. I mean, the Samoa Joe and Roman Reigns, I think that's good as well. But I really, really want to see that Strowman Brock Lesnar setup. I think that's going to be a good encounter. The reason I don't want to see it in a singles match is because we've seen Brock Lesnar time and time again with these matches where, okay, it was 5 minutes. And and my feeling is if they would have set that up where Universal Championship match, Brock Lesnar the champion versus Braun Strowman, I would see that match going 5 minutes. That's just how Brock Lesnar's matches are. With this fatal four-way match, you're going to see more than 5 minutes. You can't have a fatal four-way match end in 5 minutes. If it does, you can mark this on the record books. I do not see that happening. I think it's going to be at least a 15, 20 minute
I'm interested in seeing it as well. It's something new. It's something unique. And I hope that's what it ends up being. It looks like, obviously they're going to make the announcement next week who's going to face Brock Lesnar, but I'm all but assuming it's got to be all four of them going for the championship.
Yeah, no doubt. There's no doubt in my mind. Why have it become a no contest between the number one contenders match and not have it set up that way? Where Braun Strowman says to Kurt Angle, this is what happens when you don't put me in a match. He put me in the match, the match that I want or something. I want competition. This is his way. This is Kurt's. I have a feeling this is what Kurt's going to say. Okay, you want competition? You got competition. You're in the fatal four-way. You know what I mean? Because he always, how Strowman is every week. Kurt, I need more competition. Every week it's the same thing with Braun. So guess what? Kurt's going to say, you know what? You want your competition? You got the three big names. Go have fun, big fella.
Well, we're going to take a break, but when we return, the 3-count, 3 questions that we've been pressing this week, as well as more of the Heel to the Face podcast, as you're listening to the Heel to the Face podcast on Sports War Radio, Rat Pack Radio, and on iTunes.
Jets are rising and are ready to compete in the AFC. Boyd Green and Ty Butler will give you everything you need to know about the Jets every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. From reviewing the previous game and looking ahead to the next matchup, to all of the news and 4 downs, the Jet Zone has everything. Follow at BoydGreen25 and at Ty D. Butler on Twitter. Proud member of Sports War Radio. Let the battle begin.
This program is simulcast on WRPR Rat Pack Radio. Go to ratpacksports.com for more information.
Do you want to stay up to date on the latest sports news? Come check out After the Whistle from 4 to 5 p.m. every Friday night. We talk about the NHL, we talk about the NFL, we talk about the MLB, you name it, we got it. Tune in on Sports War Radio.
Now is the time to get your voice heard. Sports War Radio is